a belief where you just suspend judgment?
Well, for me, I would say that it's a position that says I don't think any God or gods exist.
Okay, so what is your rational justification that God does not exist?
Well, uh, when it comes to faiths based on earthly religions, I know that those were all written, the holy texts were all written by men. Now, they claim that they were divinely inspired, but I think that it's more likely that man created God than God created man and divinely inspired
Okay,
people to write these texts.
okay,
That's my rational
right. So
explanation.
it doesn't follow that human beings are mistaken about God, that therefore God doesn't exist. That's a non sequitur. Do you accept or reject what I just said?
Uh, I don't really, I would say I reject it. I don't really see how
Okay, so
that
so so
follows.
so you're saying it's not so in other words, if a creator God exists, then human beings must never be faulty in their thinking about God. Where'd you get that from?
I never said that.
Okay, well then I said it's a non sequitur. So you're in a dichotomous situation here. Your position is God does not exist because human beings have faulty reasonings about God. That's what your position was.
I don't think my
How
reasoning
does
is
it?
faulty.
Okay, listen, you got to focus here. Is it your position that God does not and cannot exist because some human beings have faulty reasoning about him?
You're just stating that the reasoning is faulty, but that's just a claim.
Yeah, you're not focusing at all on what I'm saying to you. You're just simply talking past me. Okay, I'm focusing directly on what you're saying. God does not exist, according to you, is my understanding that your position is that God does not exist because human beings have a faulty reasoning about him.
If that's your understanding, then it's wrong and you're
Okay, God
mistaken
does not exist. Okay, good. Then God does not exist because
because because what do you mean because? He just like he either does or doesn't. Okay?
yeah. Are you just so we're clear, you are Atheist Junior from YouTube. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yeah.
Bro,
Okay.
bro,
Okay, I want
you
you to explain to me, be quiet, Happy. I want you to explain to me why God does not exist.
Why God does not exist? If
Yeah,
I do
that's what
that,
atheist, that's what, yeah,
if if
that's
I
what
do that, will
atheism
you
is.
explain to me why God does exist if I do that?
Sure. Of course.
Okay. Well, I think that the reason that God doesn't exist is that people are afraid of dying, so that they've created religions and they think that God exists, but he actually doesn't. So that's why.
If that's true, it doesn't follow that God doesn't exist. That's a non sequitur. Do you know what a non sequitur is?
Yeah, I know what a non sequitur is.
Okay, so what you just said is a non sequitur.
That's your opinion.
No, it's not okay, and that's not a rebuttal. Saying that your opinion is not a rebuttal. Okay, can God exist where people believe in him because they're afraid to die? Of course they could be. It doesn't see what you're reiterating again is God does not exist because human beings have faulty reasoning. Okay, we're talking. Do you know what ontology means?
Yeah.
Okay, ontology is the nature of being. Okay, now, we're not talking about the reasons why people believe in God. We're talking about the actual existence of God. Your position is God does not actually exist. Is God's existence ontologically dependent upon the correct thinking that human beings have about him?
No.
Okay. So when you explain to me here on out why God doesn't exist, then you no longer have the luxury of me that God doesn't exist because human beings have faulty reasoning, because you've now conceded that his ontological status has nothing to do as to whether people's thinking about him is correct or not. So God does not exist because,
You're presupposing the fact that he already exists in that question.
sir, please explain to me why God ontologically does not exist since you're an atheist.
Well, I already did, and I asked you if I do that, will you explain to me
You,
why he
you,
does exist afterwards? And you
okay,
said yes.
listen to me. This is very embarrassing for you. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
You keep on playing dodgeball, right? Now, I've asked you repeatedly to tell me why God does not exist. And the only things that came out of your mouth has something to do about faulty human thinking. Is God ontologically existing dependent upon correct human reasoning? Well, the answer is no. So you can't offer an argument that God does not exist because human beings have faulty reasoning, because God's existence or non-existence doesn't depend upon her. So can you please, without repeating what you've said before, explain to me why God, in fact, does not exist?
Because he's not necessary. We have science, so.
Okay, when you say God is not necessary, that is the same thing as saying God does not exist. Do you realize that?
Well, forgive me, but I think it's just a very dumb question. I mean, why does
Did you
God
hear
not
what I did?
exist?
Okay, what did I just say to you?
You said, does saying that he's not necessary, isn't that the same thing as saying God doesn't exist?
Yeah, saying God is not necessary is the same proposition as saying God doesn't exist. It's the same proposition.
So it's a tautology.
Yeah, so please tell me why God doesn't exist.
Uh, because I don't feel like him existing. I don't know. This is a stupid question.
It's not a stupid question. You're an atheist, and you agree that atheism is the denial of all gods. Your position is God does not exist. Is that your position?
Yeah, it's a personal position that I
Good. Can
hold.
you tell? Good. Can you please tell me how you determine God does not exist?
Okay, well, I was trying to earlier when you interrupted me, but when I was in Sunday school, they told me about Noah's Ark, and I said,
I don't
well,
want to. I don't want to hear about your biography. I want you
well,
to tell me right now. Listen, I'm not trying to be rude. I get this all the time. I ask atheists why God doesn't exist, and they start launching off into a biography. I'm not trying to be rude here, but I don't want to waste time either. I don't want to hear about your biography. I want you to tell me right now how it is that you know God doesn't exist.
I mean, I could answer it in about 10 seconds, but you have to interrupt me. You know, it's very rude.
I'm please waiting. See what you're now doing is when you play dodgeball and I stop you for playing
I'm
dodgeball, then you
trying to
accuse me
answer
for
your
being rude.
questions. I'm trying.
But I will shut up. Please tell me right. Please tell me right now how God does not exist.
Okay, I came to the position that Noah's Ark wasn't true, and then later in my life, I hardened that position as an atheist. There. Was that fast
Okay, it
enough for
doesn't.
you?
That's a non sequitur.
I
It
don't
doesn't
care if it
follow
doesn't
because
follow for you. It's my own personal opinion.
the issue is not that it's unsatisfactory to me. Your statement is a non sequitur, and I will explain why it's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow that if Noah's Ark is false, therefore no God exists. Atheism is that there is no God exists. Not believing in Noah's Ark, from your perspective, might falsify the Christian God, but that's not atheism. Atheism is that there is no creator God. So it is a non sequitur to say God does not exist because you believe Noah's Ark is false. That's a non sequitur.
Well, the
Okay.
Bible is supposed to be inerrant. If the Bible is wrong, then his
That
claims in the
doesn't get
Bible
you
are
to
not true, and that God,
that doesn't
it doesn't
that doesn't
Oh,
get
exist.
you
is
to
that
atheism.
disproves the Christian
Yeah,
God, not all
okay,
gods?
hold on. Yeah. What you're doing is you're going from global atheism to local atheism. Have you ever heard those two terms before?
Mm,
June.
no.
Okay, global atheism is a philosophical descriptor that refers to that there are no gods. It's classical atheism. Local atheism is just that somebody does not believe in a particular God presented. But you can only be a local atheist is if you're not a global atheist. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if you're a local atheist, it means you disbelieve in one or more gods that are presented, but that you believe in at least one creator God. Okay? But if you're not a local atheist and you're a global atheist, you believe there are no gods. So challenging the existence of the Christian God doesn't get you to global atheism. Are you a global atheist?
Yeah.
Okay, so challenging the Bible or the God of the Bible doesn't get you to atheism per se. So can you please tell me why God doesn't exist?
Sure. I'm going to ask you a question right now that I know you won't answer. Can you tell me why the Hindu God doesn't exist?
The Hindu God doesn't exist because the one true God is the God of the Bible, and that negates the Hindu God.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now, can you please tell me why God doesn't exist?
I don't see how if a Hindu person gave the exact reverse perspective, how that would be less valid than what you just said.
Well, we can discuss that momentarily, but that's a dodge to my question. Would you
Well,
please
I've
tell me
already
why God
I've
doesn't
already
exist?
answered it like
Would
four
you?
times.
No, yeah, you've given me non sequiturs. I have given you a rebuttal to what you've said. I pointed out that they are non sequiturs. Do you recall me saying several times that's a non sequitur and then explaining why it's a non sequitur? Do you recall that?
Yes, I recall you telling me that my answers
Okay.
were non
Did,
sequiturs, Darth.
right. Did you give me a counter rebuttal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. So what you've said so far are non sequiturs. What you've said is God doesn't exist because human beings have faulty reasoning about him. Well, it doesn't follow. Kai Nielsen is an atheist philosopher, and he was selected by the Encyclopedia Britannica to write the atheist entry in the Britannica. He stated in one of his books, all of the reasons for God may fail, but it still may be the case that God exists. So to say that God doesn't exist because human beings had a desire to believe in God in the afterlife, or they have faulty reasonings about God, it doesn't follow from that that God doesn't exist.
I did not say
So,
that humans have faulty reasoning. You did. I never
no,
said
you
that.
did.
No, you
Yes, you
said
did.
that no, that was your
Okay.
description of my answer. I
Okay.
I
All right. If you want to
specifically
deny,
said
if you want to deny what you said before, that's fine. I'm not going to bicker with you over this. I want you to tell me right now why God doesn't exist.
because it's not necessary for God to exist because it's outdated.
You said that that saying it's outdated is not informative to me.
It's true. I don't know how to
What
answer
is
your
it?
question in a way that you won't
You're
complain.
you're 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 not giving me an informative response. Saying it's true is not a defense of atheism.
I don't know how to answer
How,
your question in a
how,
way that you won't
when you
complain.
say when you say belief in God as the ultimate origin point of everything is outdated. So has anyone come up to what is ultimate? That is the source of all possibility. What is it?
That's a non
Have you?
sequitur.
No, that's a question.
It doesn't make any sense. It's just word salad nonsense.
It, okay, so what you're doing right now is because you are failing to ground your atheism. You're just responding, bickering with me. I didn't give you a word salad at all, and I didn't say anything that was nonsense. Okay. Now, the point is this: I'm waiting for you to give me an informative statement as to why God does not and cannot exist.
I don't know how to answer your question in a way that you won't complain.
Because you haven't been giving me an informative answer. When you just say it's outdated, that I don't know what that means.
Well, I don't know how to answer your question in a way that you won't complain.
Well, I
Okay,
can
so
I can kind of I can try to
hold on,
clarify.
hold on a second, Theo. Listen, you're just dodging at this point. Okay, my complaint is a legitimate one. When you say God does not exist because he's outdated, that's a non-informative statement. That's a legitimate complaint. Okay, that's non-informative. What does that mean that God does not exist because he's outdated? What does that mean?
It means that religion is not useful, and that's why I don't find religion useful, and I don't find the claims of the Bible convincing because they're very
Again, you keep on
outdated
going
and
back
they're
to the.
inaccurate scientifically.
Okay,
Like saying
look,
a whale is a
sir,
fish, saying that Noah's Ark happened, saying that Noah's flood happened,
again,
it's bullshit.
you're. Do you realize that you've just moved from global atheism to local atheism again?
You said that the one true God trumps the Hindu God. Why do you get to talk about Christianity but I
Sir,
don't?
listen to me carefully. You're now baiting and switching. I'm asking you to explain why no creator God exists. You keep on bringing up the Bible. Criticizing the Bible doesn't get you to that there's no God. Okay.
Well, okay, tell me why God does exist.
I'll be glad to discuss that with you momentarily. Do you have a rational defense that God does not exist?
Can you tell me why he does exist?
Yeah, you
So
guys are
I'm
running.
waiting for you. Okay,
Wait, hold on,
I've
guys. You guys are
answered it
running.
like
historian, be
almost
quiet.
10
Be quiet.
times. I've answered it like
No,
10
no,
times.
no, no, no. You haven't.
Well,
Everything that you've
I've
said so
attempted
far.
to. I've attempted
So,
to answer it like 10 times.
what you're gonna do right now? You're gonna bicker with me like you're a teenager at the cafeteria table. Is that what you're gonna do?
Well, it's frustrating when you ask me a question and you don't
you
accept my
gave
answer.
me I don't accept your answer because I showed you how it's a non sequitur. You first said that God doesn't exist because human beings have some type of faulty reasoning, and I said that's a non
I didn't
sequitur.
say
You
that.
did
You did. I
no.
don't
Okay,
think I don't think
all right,
that.
all right. Listen, it's
That was
point.
your
Listen, it's
description of my
pointless.
answer. Sorry.
It's pointless talking with you from here on out unless you change your disposition, because right now all you're just simply doing is you're bickering with me like you're at the cafeteria table. That's what you're doing right now. Now, you told me that God doesn't exist because God is outdated, okay? And I explained to you that that's non-informative. Now, how is it informative to say that God doesn't exist because God is outdated? How is that informative?
Okay, well, I'll level with you. I find it difficult to answer this question because I don't really it's just a confusing question. Like, why don't leprechauns exist?
Okay, we can give an argument why arguments do not, excuse me, leprechauns don't exist by an absence of evidence is evidence of absence in some cases. That were leprechauns to exist, if they actually did exist, we would have at least some reliable witnesses of that. Okay. Now,
Well,
the point is
there you
this.
go.
Listen carefully. Whenever somebody brings up leprechauns, unicorns, or Santa Claus, when they're trying to defend atheism, it means they've lost the discussion. This
I
happens every single time.
I
Now, I
actually
would
I
like for you to
agree.
explain. I would
I
like for you to explain to me. I want you to explain to me without bickering with me like you're a teenager, which I assume you're not a teenager, right? Are you an adult?
No, I'm not a teenager. And
Okay,
I'll level
I
with you. I'm not
expect
trying to
you.
be difficult.
You most certainly are. You're
Yeah.
bickering with me like teenagers do. Now, I want you to explain to me without appealing to a non sequitur why God does not exist. And then you go, I explained that to you 4 times already. Every time you gave a response, I showed you why it's invalid. I walked you through it. I didn't just dismiss what you're saying is invalid. I explained to you why it was invalid, offered no counter rebuttal. When I gave you a rebuttal to what you said, you did not offer a counter rebuttal. Now, I want you to explain to me in clear terms that is informative why God does not exist.
Because there's no evidence of God existing.
Okay, is that a claim?
No, it's a fact.
Okay, so you're making so you're not making a claim?
Sure, it's a claim. It's a claim and it's a fact.
Okay, so can you defend that claim that there's no evidence for God?
Sure.
Good. Can you please explain to me how all the things that you're acquainted with do not ultimately are rooted in God as the ultimate precondition? How did you determine that? Do you know what is ultimate that's not God?
I know that there's no evidence of God. I know that the Bible has a bunch
Oh,
of things
okay,
in it that are
okay,
wrong.
okay. Well, we're not discussing the Bible right now. What we're discussing is atheism. Now, we know evidence. Now, does the moon? I'm sure you're familiar with the moon. Okay. Um, is there an ultimate origin of the moon that is not God?
Is there an ultimate origin of the moon that is
Does the
not
moon?
God?
Does the moon have an ultimate origin?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it not God?
No, it's not God.
Okay. Can you tell me what the ultimate origin of the moon is that's not God? What is it?
There was a impact on the Earth that knocked off molten rock
No,
that
no, no,
formed
no.
into
I
the
said
moon.
ultimate.
That's the origin.
No, no. I didn't. I didn't say the proximate origin. I said ultimate origin. What is it that is ultimate? That is the source of everything. What is okay? God is defined as the source of all possibility. Okay. So since you say the moon is not ultimately originating from God, I want to know what the moon ultimately origin is originated from, because you see the origin of the moon could have come about through God's plan of creation, through the cosmology that you're presenting. So what you have presented does not falsify that God is not the ultimate origin, because all you're just giving me is a proximate origin, not an ultimate origin. So do you understand the difference between ultimate origin and proximate origin?
Hmm, I guess so. I'll admit that I don't
Okay,
I, I don't know a whole lot about philosophy
okay.
terms.
Okay, so I want you to explain to me, do you know what everything ultimately derives from? Do you know what that is?
I don't. If I
Well,
had
if
to
you don't
give,
know, if you don't know what everything ultimately derives from, how did you exclude God as the ultimate origin?
well, I would say that the ultimate origin would be the four fundamental forces of the universe and the Big Bang. Now, that's the best
Okay,
current explanation that science has.
okay, okay. Now, how many times do you think I've heard this?
A lot.
Okay, do you think that it's easy for me to debunk?
I don't really care.
Okay, so the fact that you and I, for example, I don't personally agree with Big Bang cosmology, but I can concede to you that the Big Bang is true. That still doesn't get you to atheism.
I don't.
Is the singularity eternal and ultimate?
I don't. Well, hold on a second. I don't understand what you just said because you said that you don't think the Big Bang is true.
Okay, yeah. Now, but
You
that's
do.
besides the point. The point is this, okay? We're not going to change the subject here. Now, invoking Big Bang cosmology does not get you. You didn't tell me what's ultimate. What is the ultimate origin of everything? Are you going to say it's the singularity?
That's the best current explanation that I know of.
No, no. What about the multiverse?
Um,
Do you know that many
I
scientists are adopting now that our cosmology is a part of a multiverse?
there are
So
scientists that do.
is this look, is the singularity um what is ultimate? Yes
I'm
or
going to
no?
answer your first question that you asked me before I was interrupted. There are
Is the
scientists that do,
singularity
bro.
look, this is what every one of you atheists do. You just bicker. Listen, is the singularity eternal?
Do I get to answer without you interrupting me again?
Is as long as you stay on topic, is the singularity ultimate and eternal?
I would like to answer the question you asked me before that. I never got the chance to answer
Yeah,
it.
yeah. This is why do you think I brought up the issue of people responding to me like teenagers? This is precisely what you're doing right now. I'll ask you the question again: is the singularity eternal
You
and
asked me a
ultimate?
question, and then when I tried to answer it, you
Is
interrupted to
is the
ask me a
sing
different
is the
question.
singularity eternal and ultimate?
I don't know.
Well,
I
then if
know
you don't know,
it's
you
infinitely
okay.
dense. I don't know if it's eternal.
Okay. You need to focus. Well, then, if you don't know that it's eternal, you're going to have to, in order to falsify God as the eternal one, you're going to have to present what is ultimate and eternal that negates God. Have you done so?
What do you mean when you say God?
We see this never fails to happen in conversations. Okay,
People ask you
I
to
already
define your
explained.
terms.
I already defined God in the beginning of the conversation. I said that
When?
God is the supreme being, the creator of all things that are not Himself.
Okay,
I
which
defined this in
religion?
the beginning. I defined this. Okay, you're baiting and switching right now. Okay. Now, I want you to explain to me what it is that is ultimate, that's not God, that you use as a falsifier for God being ultimate. What is it?
Okay, I didn't say that you didn't define it earlier. I forgive me if I'm asking you to repeat
I
something
am
you
going to
said.
repeat the same question when you dodge it. Can you tell me what it is that's ultimate that's not God?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, God is defined as the ultimate precondition of all things that are not Himself. When you say
Says
God does not
by
exist,
you.
but man, why are you interrupting me? See, this is a tactic. This is a tactic that most atheists deploy. It's to bicker and to interrupt and cut off. If you're going to say that God, being that which is ultimate, the source of all possibility, does not exist, you're either going to have to tell me what is ultimate or make a case that nothing is ultimate. So, is there something that is ultimate that is not God, or is nothing ultimate?
I don't agree with your definition of God. So I can't
See,
answer the question.
listen to me. You're reasoning with me right now like a child. I'm not trying to belittle you. Okay.
No,
You
you
keep on
it's okay.
every time I ask you a question, you're dodging, 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 dodging. And everyone in the room is hearing you dodging. Now, I want you to explain to me why God does not exist. You brought up Big Bang cosmology. How does Big Bang cosmology falsify the existence of God?
I never said that it did.
Okay, explain to me why there is no God.
Uh, because there's no evidence. Because if there was, then people would have seen
Okay,
or
you
witnessed
said that
God.
earlier. You said there. Okay, well, why would it
You asked
necessarily?
that question earlier about 12
Okay,
times.
so if any God
You
at
don't
all
like my answer?
exists,
Let's move on. Okay, you didn't accept my answer. You don't
no,
like it? Let's
okay,
move on to something else. Can
well,
we do
so,
that?
no,
Okay,
no,
ask me
we're not
again.
done.
Ask me again, Darth. Ask me the question
Wow,
again.
aren't you? Listen to me. Because you're an adult. I'm gonna treat you like an adult. Aren't you embarrassed at all the way you're behaving here today? Aren't you
No,
embarrassed at all?
no, I'm pretty proud of it.
No, you're proud of bickering and rabbit trailing and dodging and evading. Okay, you're
Yeah,
dodging and evading every time I ask you a question. Now,
I'm having fun.
you have yet. Well, it doesn't seem that way. Now, you have yet to tell me why God doesn't exist. You've
I
yet
don't
to tell
know.
me.
I don't know how to answer the question in a way that you won't bitch and moan.
I'm not bitching and moaning. I'm simply pointing out every time you respond, you're giving me a non sequitur.
Well, you
What
don't
you're
like
saying,
my answer. Let's move on.
the last thing that you said was God does not exist because if God did exist, somebody would see him. Did you say that?
Yeah, and you said that's why
Okay,
leprechauns don't exist.
that's a non sequitur. That if a creator existed, that you would necessarily see him. If
Well,
there
then
was a
you're.
creator, why would? Can you stop interrupting me? Can
I
you
barely
please?
gotten to talk.
I'm gonna ask you a question right now. I'm really getting
Okay.
frustrated with you with your grotesque, immature behavior. How old are you, sir? I'm 61. How old are you?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, then stop acting like a 14-year-old.
Probably like 17.
What's wrong with 14-year
Okay.
olds?
Okay, see, you're proving my point right now. You sit there and you do this stupid atheist YouTube channel over and over and over again, and I'm asking you legitimate philosophical questions, and you are arguing with me like you're a 13-year-old at the cafeteria table. You are not dialoguing with me like you are an adult. You're bitching, you're whining, and then when I complain about your behavior, you tell me I'm bitching and whining. You, sir, are not acting like an adult. Okay.
My
Now,
channel's
I
not
want you to
stupid. That
explain
was
to
pretty
me.
rude.
I want you to explain to me, okay, in clear terms, that's not a non sequitur why God doesn't exist. You have
Apologize for
yet to do
calling my
so.
channel stupid.
You have yet
Apologize.
to do so. I'm not going to apologize.
Apologize, Darth. I'm upset. You hurt
Okay,
my feelings.
listen to me. Wow, you definitely have arrested development. I'm waiting for you to explain to me right now before everyone in the room. By the way, this is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube. I want you to
Yeah,
explain
I
to me
know.
why God does not. Would you not overtalk me? Because if I hear you overtalk me again, I'm going to server meet you. Now, I want you to explain to me right now why God does not exist. That's not a non sequitur. Okay. Now, I want it in clear terms. God does not exist because. Now, you said there's no evidence, but you didn't defend the statement that there's no evidence. Did you defend the claim there's no evidence for God?
Can you show me any evidence?
Did you defend the claim that nothing is evidence for God?
I defended the claim that there is no evidence, not that nothing is
Okay. No,
evidence.
okay. What? No, sir, either everything is evidence for God or nothing's evidence for God.
No,
Your
I
position
don't
is
accept that.
okay, well, you just said earlier nothing's evidence for God.
I never said that. You're putting fucking words in
You
my mouth
said
again.
you said there's no evidence for God earlier.
Yeah. That's different.
Okay, now I want you to defend that claim. How did you determine that God is not the causal origin of any fact? How did you determine that?
That's word salad.
Okay, you're done. He's thrown in the towel, folks. It's not a word salad. I asked you if evidence has to do with causal relations, does it not?
Can you define causal relations? I'm not trying to be a
Are,
dick.
is this a little game we're playing, little
No,
boy?
I'm just asking you to
Just,
define your terms.
I've just about had it with you.
I'm not
Okay.
trying
Now
to be
you told
difficult.
me yes, you are. You are precisely doing. Now you're lying. You are trying to be difficult. You're doing it on purpose. Now you told me there's nothing evidence for God. Now, please do not speak while I'm speaking. Okay. I'm not insisting. I'm demanding. Do not speak while I'm speaking. Now, you said there's nothing as evidence for God. When we talk about evidence for things, we're talking about causal relations. So if nothing is evidence for God, then nothing is deemed to stand in causal relations to God as the ultimate origin. Have you determined what these things all are evidence of that's not God? Have you determined what that is?
No.
Okay, then how did you exclude God?
From what?
How did you exclude that nothing is evidence for God? How did you determine that it can't be evidence of God?
I said there's no evidence for God.
Yeah,
That's different
good. I
from
want you to
saying
explain.
nothing is
I
evidence
want you to
for God.
explain. Listen to me. My patience has almost run out with you. I want you to explain to me how you determined that nothing is evidence for God.
I feel like I can't answer the question right. There's nothing I can say that won't make you mad.
I want you
won't be
to. I
wrong.
want you to explain to me how you determined that nothing is evidence for God. Go.
I didn't say that, Darth. I said
Yes.
there's
Okay. We're
no
done.
evidence.
All right. No. Okay. We're done. We're done. Here we have somebody who professes that he's an adult. He literally has the mind of a 14-year-old. He bickers and argues like a 14-year-old.